Well, hello, gang. This is our fifth and final session. I just wanted to let you know that in your chat window, I have uploaded about 3 or 4 different documents. I think 3 documents. Let me make sure. Yep, there's some from last week. There's a first one that says 0017-001. That is for today. That is I didn't like my handout that I made originally, so I made a new one. And I think this is actually better. And so there's that one. And then, so that's the handout for today. And then there's another, there's this a paper that I wrote for one of my classes. It's about worship resources for congregations. And then some of you have asked for my thesis. I don't have a full copy of it, so I just sent the revisions. So you'll get to see Dr. Barnett's notes in it and stuff. But if you wanted to go to the Library of Congress, there is a book called "Elders at the Communion" by "Elders at the Communion Table" by Reverend Dr. Joshua Bell, and it's a real fancy. Uh, it's just my thesis. It just looks cool. Uh, and it was written and finished December 13th, 2023. So you should be able to see some of those documents in.
Josh, when did you put those in? Because anybody that has come in after you started or after you put those in, they're not going to see them.
Now we're going to do it again. Here we go. Boom. There's one. I knew I was going to be too ahead of the game today. There's this one. And then the handout for today. Have to go over here. And then here's our handout. There you go.
And
You
I am
got three.
for everybody, I am downloading those. So those will be available. I will have Julie send those out of the office this week if you did not get those.
Now they're I'm gonna warn you, the 2 Word documents are a little bit, I mean, they're wordy. They're for they were for school. Uh it's just got a lot of research in there. And then but that last document, the PDF file, is just literally what we're talking about today with an updated kind of conversation and schedule. So um so for example, um I'm going to kind of go over what we're going to do today.
Got volume up.
Ron, you can't hear me again?
No, no, no. Well, yeah, it's soft again. I mean, we can hear, but it's real soft. And I've got the volume up as high as it'll go. It's not coming through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all the way turned up on my end. Let me just check one thing. It's my favorite part about these recordings for everybody. Yeah, I'm as loud as I can go.
All right. Well, my computer's about 10 years old, so it's probably not giving me as good audio these days.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Josh, last week when you put the microphone closer to you, I noticed it got a little louder.
Okay. Well, I will put it right here. How's that?
That's better.
Okay. That was a joke, but I can hold it here the whole time. This will work a little bit better. I will try to do this as much as I possibly can. Um, so today I want to talk about, we've covered the gambit on eldership in the 20th and the 21st century, and some of the things that I really want to talk about today is how do we bridge that gap from the past and into the future. Um, the but before we begin, I want to open up with a word of prayer. So let's pray. Almighty God, we come to you on this beautiful day, asking that you would truly bless this time that we share here together. We ask that everything that we do is truly pleasing in your sight, and help us as we go on into the future, helping our congregations to the best of our ability. In your son Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the things. So first off, in my thesis, one of the things I truly feel strongly about is that the word presbyteros that Peter Morgan talks about, that we talked about last week, and the idea of bishop and overseer worked really well for us as a denomination until 1972. The idea for that is in 1972, we created a document for the denomination called the Order and Call of Ministry, which is the guideline for how we do clergy. So there are, I think it's 16 proficiencies that every clergy has to accomplish in order to make this possible. And in that process, this is how we are able to ordain or commission that person into as a clergy person. As all of you know that I'm looking at on the screen, we live in a real interesting world that the idea of having full-time ordained clergy is hard to do like we did a while ago. It's some of its cost, some of its location, some of it is just there. I would argue that there's not a lack of clergy. I would say that maybe 10 years ago, yeah, there was a lack of clergy, but we worked really hard to make that possible now. So really, it's just a matter of being able to afford and attract to bring people in. And we have this really interesting idea of what that's supposed to look like. But we're not going to talk about clergy today. We're going to talk about the word oikonomos, which in the Greek stands for steward. This is my argument that I think that happened with the elders in 1973 on, is that we really took a role as the stewards of the table. And that's really where my thesis goes in my doctorate, is that oikonomos is stewards are like the ones that are in charge of the kitchen. They're in charge of the service. They do the roles that we've asked elders to do. Peter Morgan does a great job, so does Gary Straub, talking about presbyteros. The issue is I think functionally, if we're looking at a restoration church, our churches look at elders more as the oikonomos versus our clergy are the presbyteros. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just kind of one of the issues that we face. So that's kind of where we're going to focus in our discussion today. So let's talk about some of the challenges. The first big challenge that I think a lot of us are proving that is not as bad of a challenge, but is still intimidating, is the idea of digital ministry. Technology is terrifying, and those that have it can do it sometimes okay. Those that don't feel as though they're left out. Even with our own workshops, if I would have done this pre-COVID, I would have shown up to a church in Kansas and I would have sat there for 8 hours, melted your brains, and I would have passed out for 3 days afterwards, since I'm pretty much of an introvert. And then we would have acted like we learned a whole bunch, and we would have just taken the notes and we would have brought them back to the church, and that's what we would have done. The nice part about digital ministry is now we have the ability to record these sessions, talk about them, and watch them at our leisure, chew on it a little bit, have good conversations. But it is a challenge because not everybody has the ability to even watch the videos. Another part that's a little bit frustrating and is a little bit tiring is it polarizes people and it burns them out pretty quick. During COVID, one of the things that was fascinating was that you had clergy that we came up with new terms. The new psychological term is they were over functioning, and your elders were over functioning. It wasn't that they were overworking. It's just that they saw all of these needs and they were trying to fill all of them, and they were functioning to a point where at some point they burned out and turned into burnt toast. And all of you can still feel it. I mean, it's been 5 years since, or 4 years since, depending on who you talk to, and we're still kind of feeling the after effects of that. And so, but in that process, it forced all of us to look at how do we do ministry outside our sanctuary. And I would argue, I think we try to do it as best we possibly can. We figured out, no, we don't need the $5,000-$6,000 cameras to run worship. We can broadcast from our cell phone. Was it as nice as the $5,000-$6,000 camera? No, but it was still where 2 or 3 are gathered. They just might be in their home. But we're still kind of burnt out a little bit from that. And in that process, I don't know about any of you, but we are still measuring our success on church attendance and the expectation of how many people are participating in the pews on Sunday as if that's successful or not. And so one of the things that we have found in Oklahoma especially is there are some churches that may have 30 people there on Sunday morning, but they have 150 people watching online faithfully every Sunday. And so the expectation of how do we minister to those people that are not in our pews changed. And as elders, as stewards of the church, it has become a challenge. So with that being said, oikonomos versus the corporate eldership. So what we used to do with presbyteros, oikonomos always had elders as sages, and they were the wisdom keepers, or the culture bearers. They're the ones that kind of helped us as clergy know what we were missing and what we weren't. This is a good thing with following on the oikonomos idea. If you put your elders as sages or culture bearers or keepers of wisdom, they have less likelihood of burning out. If we continue to do the boardroom mentality of this corporate idea of eldership, like, for example, the church that I serve, we are just in the process of redoing our bylaws. And part of that is because of for me, not so much for the board, but for me, the roles of deacons and elders were just completely skewed. I mean, like, they weren't even like what we were actually doing. The job descriptions didn't matter. How many of you guys have in your constitution and bylaws or your bylaws that all elders are voting members of the board? Just go ahead and raise your hand if you have that. No. Okay, good. A lot of churches, believe it or not, still have that. How many of your bylaws still have that your elders have to be on the board, at least on a committee? Interesting. I know it's kind of, yeah, they're Judaist. Yeah, see, this is about what I find is about 50% of churches still want your elders involved. They just don't want them to take over. Because unfortunately, we've seen elders do that. they get mad at the preacher, or they get mad at what's going on, and they say, well, we don't want communion. Uh, we will be more than glad to share you our bylaws, Belmont. They did a really good job. I'm really proud of them. Um, so, uh, but this corporate idea of eldership, we had a committee that was called the Discipleship Committee, and it consisted of the deacons and elders. They had a head elder who ran the elders meeting and discipleship committee meeting like a board meeting. They had a secretary and treasurer. It had a whole thing, and they became their own committee amongst the board that reported to the board. Now, the idea was people stopped coming to elders meetings and deacons meetings. So they decided that if you make it important, they'll show up. But they focused in on a corporate model, not a spiritual one. My argument is, if you put elders in a room and say, we need to pray together, they're going to show up. And if they don't need to be elders. Sorry, gang. I know I'm a little harsh on that. If they're uncomfortable with doing that, then let's have them do something else. If we have a deacons meeting and we say, hey, look, we're going to be moving tables and chairs at this such and such day, and we really need some help to do that, deacons, will you be willing to help that? And they say, yes, fantastic. If they say, no, that's not my bag, I don't really want to do any of those things, we say, okay, what is it that you like to do? Well, I like to paint. Oh, cool. We need to paint this, that kind of thing. We have to find the places that work for them. If you focus in on this corporate way of doing things, where it's efficiency over relationship, you'll have it'll blow up in your face every single time. So for me, when I was writing my thesis and when I was creating this material, the idea was I want us to look at elders or oikonomos as spiritual companions for the church. So since we have a little bit of time, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, and then I want to open this up to the conversation. So the next part is not only do I want them as spiritual companions, but I want them to be listeners and discerners of God's movement. This is not what color are the pews going to be. This is not what color the carpet is going to be and who mowed the lawn. This is, where are we as a congregation moving? And I know, I think all of us are in this melancholy stage of, is God really moving? Well, the answer is yes. You are all here asking, what is it that God is asking us to do in our own local churches? So just by that moment alone, we know that God is moving in your church. You are looking for answers. I don't have them for your church. I'm sorry. I love all of you, but I want to be honest. As an elder and as a spiritual companion of your church, this is when we listen to what are the needs of the community and we answer them as best we can. If we are not physically able to do it, there is nothing wrong with us praying about it. If we're not physically able to pray about it, then maybe we can write cards. I mean, we have got to stop thinking in the idea of efficiency over relationship. And that means, in my final part of this conversation, in the vision forward as elders / oikonomos, that means each of you get to be prophets of joy, justice, and grace. You get to be the happiest person in the room, even if you're not. You get to pretend like you're clergy for a few minutes. I mean, let's face it, all of us come to church, we're already exhausted before we sit down. Today, for example, I'm just going to brag on the church that I serve a little bit. We have this annual Veterans Day celebration, and we go all out. I mean, today the only thing that we were missing was a bagpiper Our bagpiper is always here, but he got this awesome opportunity to go to Florida and to go play at some Celtic festival or something. I don't know. He's awesome. So he couldn't be here, but we have the American Legion here and we do all of this stuff. And then after worship, we have this. Well, today we decided we were going to have a fellowship dinner, but it wasn't just to honor the veterans. We were going to use it as a benefit to help a family in our church that has had some medical emergencies. And we had so many people come, we had to put up extra chairs and tables because we were listening to what the church was wanting to do. Does that make sense? It started off with, let's just eat turkey dinner together. Literally, gang. I'm telling you the truth. To all of a sudden it was like, well, let's honor our veterans at the same time. And then there was this church family that had a medical emergency and they're going to be hurting financially. And we're like, ooh, we're already going to be here. Let's just take up a love offering for them. And it was beautiful to behold. But now we're exhausted. And we have 2 people in my room rather than 8. And they're exhausted. You see? So the most important part I'm going to tell you all, in the midst of all of this, as prophets of joy, justice, and grace, we also have to help ourselves as well as our clergy members understand Sabbath. This is where I would want an amen if we were in church on Sunday.
Amen.
Thank you, David. But Sabbath is something that all of us have to take serious. Because even if you are listening and you become this prophet and you become this spiritual companion, what usually happens is we go back to what we were doing during COVID and we become overfunctioners. And that is exactly the opposite of what's going to work in the 21st century. So, in your chat window, I have this really, I mean, it's just amazing. It's just absolutely awesome. I'm only a little proud of it. I'm just kidding. It is so good. It should be published. Just saying. It's just a joke. You guys can laugh. I know it's in the afternoon. Do you need to get coffee? Everybody check your pulse. Make sure you're awake. I mean, I'm super caffeinated right now. There we are. Okay, there. I saw smiles. All right. Here's some of the things that if you were looking at your handout, and this is for my gang here too, this is what I would look at as the vision summary, right? Like this is what I think that we are going to face. And you'll notice that I've already I've talked a little bit about this in my lecture. The goal here is that I wanted you to see that I'm looking at, when I say that you all are oikonomos, I'm looking at that Acts chapter 20 verses 28 section, or First Peter chapter 5 verses 1 through 4. This is the idea that elders are shepherds, not rulers. I don't like the bishop overseer language. I mean, it's technically right, but it doesn't function well. Does that make sense? There's a faith movement that's a part of the Stone Campbell movement that took that to a whole nother level. And if you're in the Church of Christ a cappella movement, elders are the ones that make all the decisions. No one does anything without them, and they don't like to do anything. If you ask any Church of Christ a cappella, how's everything going? They're like, well, we had people at church on Sunday. And that's how they measure their success. And the roof didn't fall in, so that's a good day. For me, I want to look at it as that we are the spiritual companions of our people. So since you've got your notes here, I even added on the bottom there on Roman numeral 7. I put number 6. I have a covenant from before you leave today. I want you to sign this. This is kind of what I want you all to do on your own. If we were at church camp, I would make you do this, and then we would all sign it in blood. I mean, we'd all sign it in an ink pen, but then we'd burn it in the fire. I mean, no, we would just sign it and date it because this is our church camp covenant. But this is our elders' covenant for the 21st century. As an elder of the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, I covenant to embody Christ's compassion, wisdom, and courage. I will listen before speaking. Yeah, that one's hard. Pray before acting, and lead through love rather than authority. I will stand as a bridge between generations, uphold our church's story, and nurture the Spirit's work within our community. That's what I think our elders are needing to do. And that is like this would be their contract. So when you're talking with your elders in the future, right, you'd give them this page, these 2 pages, and you'd say, all right, elders, this is what we're thinking about for the next year. And you could use Peter Morgan's model that, taking it month by month, here's what we're going to do each month during the year. You could do that and use this as your framework. Spend 1 month talking about the theological foundations. That's your elders meeting. The second month, you talk about your contemporary challenges. The third month, you can use Joshua Bell's absolute amazing answers to everything underneath the sun for eldership, or you could use Peter Morgan's. It's up to you. You could use, for the fourth month, you could use the vision statements for discussion. You see where I'm going with this? I don't need to keep going through that. But then on the bottom there, I put in number 7, I gave you some books that I think are good. They're a little old, but they're great. The only thing that's not on there, and I thought I put it on there, was Gary Straub's book. But hopefully you all are familiar with Gary Straub enough that I don't have to point him out to you, because he's the one that wrote the book, Your Calling as an Elder. And he kind of has it broke down. And he focuses in on the elders as authority kind of thing. So obviously he and I are on different wavelengths. But here's the part I want you to get. Since I used to teach social studies, I love the idea of living documents. This is not a contract that you're signing that says this is set in stone in blood forever and ever. Say no more, say no more. This is a living document for you to work on, to add on to use for your own churches. Hopefully it'll guide your prayer, inspire discussions. And maybe there's stuff that we're missing off of this. So since we have time today, we're going to break up in groups here in a minute, but I just thought I would take this opportunity. What's the first thing that's popping through your head besides, Josh, we only have 12 people, we only have 2 elders, and we can't do anything? Go for it, Gwen.
I guess the first thing popping through my head is the busyness of people, more than we don't have this or we don't have that. It's, our biggest problem seems to be just getting people to make time in their schedule.
Yeah, we just talked about that as a church last week. The busyness of the world has also increased. I think it's kind of weird. I don't know. If I had the opportunity to do an anthropological study, I would love to see if we are actually busier now than we were pre-COVID, or it just seems like it is. But it feels like we are. What else? Anybody else? Any other challenges that you think of? All of your churches are just perfect. It's what it's sounding like. I remember Kansas being pretty cool, and so Nebraska was an interesting experience for me. But, Rhonda has her hand up.
A challenge I think we're facing is connecting with the people who only attend online.
Yeah.
that we never see in person. And I don't have an answer, but that's just something that we didn't deal with before COVID.
Yeah, and I think if you wrote a book and it came up with that answer, you would pay for your church's budget for a couple years. Because I think that's another thing that a lot of churches are facing right now is how do we build relationship with people we don't see? And the weird thing is, and I don't know if you have this, Rhonda, but some of them actually give online if you give them that opportunity. Like, do you have that problem?
I don't know because I'm not privy to who's giving and who isn't giving. We do give them the opportunity to give through the website or um, there's some other method that I know we use. But I'm just thinking about the personal connection and giving them opportunities to serve when they aren't physically at the building.
Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you all, but we've been having to be a little bit creative. We don't, like, for example, I don't ever know who gives online. We just get a running a tally at the end of the month from the software, and it says we receive, I don't know, $500 from online giving this month. And then, of course, we report that in our newsletter. But I do find that fascinating. That's a whole new way for us to think that they're connected to us, but they're not in our pews. So we don't, I didn't used to be a hugger, but this church broke me. And so I like hugs and handshakes. Um, but so not being able to hug people is kind of a weird feeling, or shake their hands. So um anything else, folks? As usual, Kansas and Nebraska churches are just as Paul Harvey describes them. Not Paul Harvey. Oh, what's his name? Garrison Keeler. Just perfect and wonderful, where all the kids are beautiful and the parents are average.
I'm from Nebraska.
Oh, see, there you are.
Watch it.
Okay, well, so I want to spend some time in a breakout groups, because I think that the hardest part that we have to ask ourselves are four questions. Yeah, that's it. All the women are strong, all the men are good looking, and all the children are above average. There it is. Thank you, Rhonda.
Like Garrison Keeler.
The Garrison Keeler. Um, what I really want us to ask are four questions as we break up into groups. Um, and maybe I should just type them up in the chat window. Yeah, let's do that. What, if I don't mess up, must elders become?
Okay, Josh, I've got those two ready.
Oh, cool. The other two questions are on the other page. What are three new skills elders need in the century? What are three new skills that elders?
Here, I got them for you.
You got them? You found them on the handout?
Yep.
You are so good. And that, sir, is why you are number one.
Yeah, there you go. There's all four.
All right. So we're going to I want to spend a good amount of time on this because my hope for today is that we don't leave feeling as though we don't have a way forward. So what I want is to hear each other. This goes back to that covenant, right? To be a spiritual guide, not just a policymaker. To listen more than we speak. Lead by example. So
Louder, please.
oh, I moved away from the microphone. Sorry, Debbie. Sorry, it's a little weird how this is working. So what I want us to do is I want us to come out of this workshop with an idea that you have something that you can take back to your churches. So the goal here is that I want you to come up with these 4 questions. Give everybody a chance to speak, preferably in more than one word answers, because I want us to share them together as a group. So you're going to need a reporter for each of your groups, so that we can hear your ideas, and maybe something that you say to us will inspire us in our own churches. Does that make sense?
Little man awake. Yeah. He slept good. Do you see where we are?
We had some life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We already.
All right. Does that make any sense? Everybody give me a thumbs up if that made sense. All right. So David, I don't want small groups. Let's do like groups of 4 or 5. FCC Augusta is obviously by themselves. Belmont is by themselves, I think, because there's you've got 4 or 5 there. Yeah. 4. Okay. So that's a group by itself. You know what I'm saying, David?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then obviously my group will be themselves.
Okay. I've got the rooms ready.
Okay. So let's say that you guys are in these rooms until about 4:10. That would give us plenty of time to come back in. That gives us 20 minutes to talk about those 4 questions. Is that too much? That's too much? Okay, let's say let's have you back at 4. That's 20 minutes of
20
time.
minutes.
Sorry, David, I messed you up.
Nope, you're fine.
So let's say 4 o'clock we come back, and then we can all come up with these great ideas to save the world.
Okay, I'm going to open the rooms.
Okay, so we're going to need a speaker from each group. Mine was group number 5. So whoever's group number 1, if you would kind of just summarize what your group talked about, that would be phenomenal. And just so that you know, we don't have 30 minutes, so just kind of highlights. Group 1. David, who is that group?
Group 1 would have been Ron, one labeled Zoom user, Joni, and Jaylee.
Okay.
We didn't designate anybody to be a note taker, unfortunately.
Okay. So what did you guys come up with that's going to save the world?
Well, we did talk about having to become more digital in our ministry as elders.
Interesting. What about the new skills? Did you all get to the 3 new skills as a group? What were those 3 new skills? Or a new skill that you would have to have in the 21st century?
Yeah, I don't remember us coming up with any new skills, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to group 2. And that would have been
There have been Susan, Judy, and Jim, but not Jim on the screen.
got it. What'd you guys come up with?
We didn't designate a specific person either, but we had good discussion. The first one was more flexible and to do what needs to be done. We talked about some of the committees that cover some of the responsibilities that differ between churches. Shepherding groups maybe within a care team type of group and not specifically elders. The new skills, we came up with 2. One was flexibility, which is a new skill for some of us, and technology, needing to cover those pieces of things. And Susan or Janet have anything to add to that?
You mean number 3?
Or any of them?
No, did we talk about number 4?
Yeah, we talked about spreading the word, the things you mentioned that we have always been on the list to do for all of us, elder or not, spreading the word and caring for others.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's good. That's what we talked about. And lots of other things.
All right. Let's just keep on moving.
So room 3 was Debbie, Gwen, Karen, and Rhonda.
And I volunteered to try to take some notes on our discussion. As we were talking about the first, we said, while elders are needed to function as spiritual guides and companions, it's easy to drift into just being more concerned with the organizational structure and lose our spiritual focus. There is a difference between elders who are used to being part of a larger congregation and having a more prominent role versus those who became elders after a church split and in a more limited role and not as public facing. Allowing elders to fill roles for which they're suited and not try to squeeze them into something they aren't, like public speaking. And then for the new skills that were needed, and these really aren't new skills, they're just ones we need reminding of over and over again. Becoming better listeners, finding new ways to assist the pastoral staff with things like funerals and visitation, and becoming stronger in prayer.
Good job.
Then the other room was Joanne and
Oh, that was mine. That was Joanne, Fran, Tom,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
on FCC Augusta's number 1, technology of male versus female roles and social media. Ooh. Going outside the doors of the church, not keeping activities in the building, each elder finding their true calling. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that be amazing? That they would be more accessible, not as an authority, as we are just one of the congregation. I like that. FCC Augusta, you guys are gonna change the world here. Belmont, how about you guys before we come to mine?
All right. For number one, how elders must elders become in today's world? We put to be a different kind of communicator, to be an elder figure beyond just our clusters, not just for the people we see, but to reach out to those that we don't. And how do we reimagine our role beyond Sunday mornings? To show up for youth and others at events that are going on, activities, plays, whatever they're interested in. Not that you have to go to all of them, but just show up every now and then. And then we have got an influx currently of young people with younger children. And so we want to try and make sure that we can come beside them, let them know that they're welcome. Have activities and gatherings just for them. And then what are the 3 new skills? We've got more than that. Elders need in this century. We put technology, social media, patience, discretion, and ability to move on a dime. Where do you see God calling elders to lead in your context? To be more being able to move towards those that are outside and those are in the margins, people that we might not always talk to, but we know that they're a person just like us. And sometimes they are people who might even show up at a church activity, but we just need to follow through on conversations we start at activities that we have in events, and to reach out more with people that we think are okay in the church. Because sometimes a lot of us are really good on putting on a plastic cover. Are you really okay? What's going on? You know, maybe you need to go have lunch, or you just need to have a group of church friends. We called those today holy friendships, to get together and just see how everybody's doing. Those are ours.
Well,
Before you go, Josh, first Christian in Nebraska City.
and he was by himself.
No, they had a group of 8. He told
Did
me
you
there were
really?
other people with them.
Yeah, we have a group of 8 here. So we talked about my role at Nebraska City is as an interim pastor. And so, and they're going from a full-time pastor down to my half-time. And so they're being called on as elders to just think beyond eldership of what they've known. And I mean, you know, as their pastor now, I'm seeing they were already willing to go above and beyond, I think, what was needed to be done. Being able to get up and offer prayers. They're helping me with the liturgy, doing call to worship, announcing prayers, and of course, the standard of praying over elements at the communion table. But they're being asked to stretch what they can do. But it is important to remember that we don't want to force them into doing something they're not comfortable with, but we are asking them to look at their skills and what they could do. You know, one lady here, Pat, she feels comfortable with going to the ambassador and visiting shut-ins. And so that's perfect for her. Whereas others feel more comfortable with speaking. And so we've talked about the one gentleman filling in if I have a Sunday that I have to be off. So let's see. Number 3, what are 3 new skills elders need in this century? We talked about technology like everybody else. Let's see. Need to be able to be a little more willing to move outside of your comfort zone. And where do we see God calling elders in our context? Definitely more roles in helping with visitations and such that the pastor, as a full-time pastor, used to be able to do more of. Anything else that I need to add, gang?
The listeners.
Oh, yes. One of the biggest and important pieces is just when you is being a listener, whether they're here at coffee at the church or they're out at the ambassador visiting or running into people around town at the diner or something. They need to be ready to listen. And so many people, we talked how a short phone call can turn into an hour and a half visit very easily because you ask the right question and the next thing you know, they're talking your leg off.
Very
And that is
good.
all I've got. Thank you.
You all are giving me hope here. This is good. I think one of the things that my group, am I missing one, David, besides mine? I was group 5.
Nope, I think that's it.
So Fran, that was Fran, Joanne, Tom, and oh no, it was Mr. and Mrs. Mason. Tom and Sally, I think. Either way, we discussed, and my two ladies, I have Karen and Pam that were here, and one of the things that we discussed was a new skill to learn was approachability. How does one become approachable by listening more than speaking, which is kind of awesome. I heard them say one of the other ones was communicating more. And then a new skill to acquire was learning how to mediate. This is a big one. And I think if all of us are talking about it and we're being really serious, when you add that C word, mediation is probably one of the biggest issues. And I want to say this in a loving way. The reason the C word is so scary is because we are creatures of habit. And as a church, you have an entire organism that's moving together and that has been moving one way for a really long time. And then you go through this sensation of mitosis, and we've split ourselves. And it could be anything from the color of the pews to do we have a youth program when we only have 5 people showing up to worship on Sunday? So mediation becomes a really, really hard deal, especially when you take all of these ideas that you have brought, which by the way was phenomenal. Good job, you all. That you take these ideas and you go back to your church and you're saying, hey, look, these are possible. And the very first thing is you're going to have the person that's going to be Lord Grumpy Pants and say, we don't need to do that. We're fine. Everything we do is fine. There's nothing wrong with our church. It's been fine this way forever. And it takes all of the energy that you have, all of the enthusiasm, and it deflates it. It just literally pops it like a balloon. In the church that I serve, I joke with them quite often that I'm going to start carrying cards with me that says, hello, I'm Mr. Grumpy Pants, leave me alone. And so anytime that someone decides to say, we don't need to do that, we've already been doing it, it's just fine, I just hand them the card. And hopefully it brings a joke. But mediation is something that's really hard. I think that if I was going to follow up this workshop, I think it would be about mediation. Because unfortunately, as David and Tom will tell you, one of Josh's previous lives was when I was in Virginia. I did conflict management with congregations when I worked for the region. And my job was literally to go break up fights. I literally have the reputation in Virginia as the bouncer preacher. And all it was is I went into a meeting as an Okie and I said, listen, my mom always said that if I can't say something, that if Jesus was standing next to me, I needed to shut my hole. And everybody got mad. And I said, okay, cool. If we can't behave like Christians, then are we having the right conversation? And then we were able to start mediation. Not everybody can get away with that. And I don't suggest that you do that in your churches. It worked in some cases. In some cases, it just added fuel to the fire. So all of these things are phenomenal. I really want you to keep reading on these things, especially those that are in interim positions. You are in a very beautiful place where negotiation and conversation should be flourishing. What does it look like to dream and then to see those dreams come into fruition? Those of you that are in transitions from full-time to part-time ministry, this absolutely needs to happen. And the ones that can make this happen are the elders. That's why I think that Tom and David were so adamant about us having this workshop, was that if you have a good, strong group of elders, it makes calling someone extremely easy. The hard part is that we have to allow clergy to go, oh, wait a minute. I'm not the supreme ruler. And they have to actually take a deep breath and go, oh, wow, I can actually go eat dinner with my wife every once in a while. That's a crazy concept. I just happen to be lucky and serve that kind of church. Okay. So for our conversation piece today, I don't want to end early. I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask questions of me personally, because I think that one of the things that always happens at these is that lecturer talks for 5.5 hours. Actually, in this case, it's been about 10. And no one ever gets to ask them any questions. So here you go. And by the way, I'm an open book. Just ask my church.
Well, I would like to make a comment more than ask you a question. And it's
Yes, sir.
based on Nebraska City's situation, what he was telling us today. And also it came up, it entered my mind last week, but I never did share it. But I was in this is before I became a minister. I was in a church, pretty good sized church, 300 people, 2 services. We had a senior minister and associate minister, and we had to get rid of our senior minister for financial reasons and go with just our associate minister as the minister. And he was really the minister of music and education. So our elders talked about how we could support that minister. And one of the things we came up with was crisis elders, so that if someone had an emergency, like had to go to the hospital and wanted someone to be there, they were to call the crisis elder. And we only, I think 2 or 3 of our elders became crisis elders. They had special skills basically with that, and they volunteered. So they rotated them on a weekly basis. Then they were published in our church newsletter, who was the crisis elder. And I don't remember if it was on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, but they became the crisis elder. And that way it took a little pressure off of the one minister then, so that he didn't feel like he had to drop everything and go to the hospital whenever somebody went to the hospital, which was a blessing to him. So
It is.
I just wanted to bring that up because I thought something like a crisis elder might be something useful for Nebraska City in their role as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just asking my elders that are here gathered about that.
Yep. Any others?
Whoop. There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I accidentally bumped the off button. I was just saying that we've had elders that have been able to step up for emergency doctor visits and such to give people rides. And so far it's working for them, being, because it's actually, the past minister was gone for 4 months. about 4 months before I was called. So they had already started coming into working with and being emergency elders. So.
Anything else? Okay. So since you are the most loquacious group I've ever had, we may be able to end a little early. I want to make sure that I have the opportunity to remind you that chaliceresources.com is a place where we invite elders from all over the area to turn in worship resources. Some churches have elders do the calls to worship, the things that nature, the offering, the invitation to communion. Every church does this a little bit differently. All of that stuff that's on that website is designed specifically to help churches help churches. And the objective is from that website, we will be taking all of that information, giving credit to everyone that writes. You don't have to say anything. This is a good practice for your technology gang, right? This was one of the main goals that I kept hearing. This is a good way to practice learning how to put this on that website. It's pretty self-explanatory. You go in there and you put in, I want to enter in something, submit, and then off we go. And then once we have enough data, we will update the website, and then there will be stuff from all of you on there and all of your elders. I have no interest in making any money on this. This is literally just to provide resources for every church that needs resources available from you. I think sometimes preachers write all the prayers, and they really needed to do, hey, look, there's my website. Super fancy. So right where it says submit yours, that's where you would click. And then you'll see that on the bottom there, it has elders prayers, communion meditations, worship services. This is for clergy, because clergy can't look at a website without participating some way. If you'll keep scrolling down a little bit, David, I wanted them to see how easy it is to submit something. So all you have to do is you go down there, you type in that information, your first, your last name, your title, your location. That's very important for me, so we can show that elders from the First Christian Church in Nebraska City participated. And then you can either upload your document, you can upload a picture of your document. Like if you wrote it on your hand and you don't want to type it, you could just take a picture with your cell phone and upload it that way. You could type it in the message screen right there. You can upload a video of it, and then you just click what category and then push submit, and it's done. David, could you go to the content library, please? Yeah, this is definitely a practice for your technology skills, gang. This is super easy, and you can't mess it up. Like literally. And then you scroll down. So if you would go to where it says communion, David, you will already notice that there's prayers already there. So these are communion meditations, communion prayers. I think we have some folks from Kansas on there. Yeah, you can do that one. And so there it is. It's all ready to go. So you could, for those of you that need something written down, boom, there it is. There is somebody from Kansas on there. I don't remember who. But you'll notice there's a lot from Chickasha and from First Christian Church Perry. I don't know how that happened. But there's a whole bunch. And eventually what'll happen is I'll break it down into age groups and things of that nature. Not age groups, titles. The biggest thing that's going to be on there very soon is that the website lifeandliturgy.wordpress.com has 9 years worth of liturgical resources that we will have access to for free. It will also be available on this website so that you can have every single thing for the whole worship, including suggested hymns for your worship out of your chalice hymnal and things of that nature? Is the collection searchable, such as looking for meditation that goes with a specific scripture? Not yet, Rhonda. It will though eventually. So it's a work in progress, and the most important part for me right now is yes, the music resources will be available once the life and liturgy worship material is uploaded to this website, and we're this close from having that all on there. But it's 9 years worth of material, so that'll all be available. It's mostly focused in on chalice hymnal stuff, but you can find that in other hymns as well. And someday I will, since I'm technically a hymnody expert supposedly across the country, I don't know why, but that's the reputation I have. I will create a workshop that talks about hymns and hymnody and how the chalice worship and the chalice hymnal were our greatest success and failure all at the same time. I didn't say that out loud. We're still recording. That's okay. Any other questions for me before we close with the word of prayer?
I just
Okay.
want to say thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being so patient with me. This is my first time to do something like this in this format using technology. You all have been very gracious and very generous with your time. This has been a long process, but I wanted the region of Kansas to get their work out of it. So they helped me through seminary. They helped me get ordained, and they've been with my family for 3 generations. So I love Kansas with my whole heart and being. So with that being said,